Business PNG is brought to you by the China Harbour Engineering Company. Good evening, I'm Leanne Jarari. Welcome to Business PNG, your weekly look at business news and updates. In a recent speech to the Port Moresby Chamber of Commerce and Industry, ANZ Group Chief Executive Officer Mike Smith said he was confident about PNG's future and called for a more active national conversation about how to make the most of the opportunity being presented by the Asian century. Asia's urbanization and industrialization are already supporting PNG's development, exports, and as investment grows, the opportunities are significant for Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea's unique resource endowment and location adjacent to Asia underpin a positive outlook for national wealth generation over the coming decades. As the Asian century unfolds, demand for the commodities that PNG already produces, energy, metals, wood products and quality foodstuffs, is set to grow, creating significant opportunities. Asia's urbanization and industrialization are already supporting PNG's development. Exports and investments are growing and the opportunities are significant for Papua New Guinea. This was the point of discussion at a business breakfast hosted by the Port Moresby Chamber of Commerce and Industry alongside the ANZ Group recently. The event, heavily attended by Port Moresby's business professionals, welcomed ANZ Group Chief Executive Officer Mike Smith as he expressed his confidence in PNG's future and called for more active conversation about the Asian century. He said the Asian century is a perfect match for PNG's location, despite the country's many challenges. This is the reason ANZ commissioned the 2013 Insight Report, Bold Thinking, Imagining PNG in the Asian Economy.
This long-term optimism is also why we took the step, as you heard from Mark, of commissioning the major report on Papua New Guinea after my last visit. The aim was to examine the potential for the nation to benefit more broadly from Asia's industrialization and urbanization and its growing demand for natural resources as well as for agricultural commodities. Total trade flows between the Pacific and Asia have risen from $1.7 billion in 2000 to almost $10 billion in 2013. Like the LNG project, this highlights the region's increasing Asian orientation and that we need a more active discussion about how to make the most of the Asian century.
Addressing some of the country's major business houses and notable stakeholders in the private sector, Smith said he was confident about Papua New Guinea's future and called for a more active national conversation about how to make the most of the opportunity being presented by the Asian century. The Pacific region has been steadily influenced by the Asian economy, and the shipment of the first gas early this year to Japan's Tokyo Electric Power is further proof of this. The task is to ensure that the critical economic sectors of resources, infrastructure, and agriculture all play their role in a national response to the Asian opportunity.
PNG's resource sector has the potential to grow export revenues at least fourfold to $23 billion a year, US dollars, per annum by 2030. The natural resources export opportunity would require an estimated $112 billion US dollars in capital investments by 2030 as well. Agriculture is a long-term opportunity that can drive sustained growth by facilitating agribusiness entrepreneurship and business scale, and essential infrastructure improvement, addressing the significant challenges which exist in the energy supply, can be achieved through a fresh approach to delivery through prioritization, private sector involvement, and improved governance.
The report also highlighted the need for balanced long-term growth across the natural resources, infrastructure, and agricultural sectors. However, according to the report, there are a number of challenges PNG would need to overcome to achieve the potential prize, including increasing global competition for capital, the need to create world-class infrastructure, and to build a more productive and export-oriented agricultural industry. Smith also remarked that though his bullish view on PNG's future still remains, there is a striking gap between the country's potential and the current reality, and this he attributed to investment risk currently overwhelming PNG's geological and geographical potential.
The Fraser Institute asked investors to rank the attractiveness of PNG's resource sector against 95 other countries. It comes 73. However, when asked to imagine all of those 95 countries, if they all had best practice in terms of policy setting, investors rank PNG as number 3 in the world. That is the opportunity. And this huge difference occurs because investment risks currently overwhelm PNG's geographical and geological potential. And the gap illustrates why PNG has to urgently refocus its national discussion on lowering actual and perceived investment risks, and also on skills development and transfer from the growing resources sector. The pathway to achieving this is the focus of the recommendations in our report. For example, the successful PNG of the future would have, 1, built a track record of project delivery, and the first shipment of LNG certainly contributes to this, will have helped project proponents to address infrastructure needs and to have developed well-functioning relationships between local communities, landowners, and government. Increased transparency and attention given to projects in PNG will assist this process.
The Papua New Guinean government has the ability to implement reforms that could allow PNG to grow strongly over the coming decades. According to the report Bold Thinking, the next 5 years will be critical to set up the foundations for attracting investment. However, some bold thinking is first required in order to evaluate and prioritize these actions. The Asian opportunity provides an overarching framework for prioritizing and putting resources where they count most.
Creating this future for PNG means prioritizing a number of important conversations to establish a national leadership agenda which is focused on Asian-centric opportunities. And this conversation would address questions such as what changes are needed to encourage the balanced growth of resources, infrastructure, and agriculture. What national level actions are needed to ensure that the benefits of resource sector growth can flow through to other sectors. This includes issues of institutional strength, corruption, and law and order. As well as being a major driver of growth outcomes, responses to these issues strongly influence investor attitudes and behavior. And indeed, they influence the local communities and people in PNG who actually want to see these benefits more widely spread.
After the break, the launch of a microcredit scheme in the Esa'Ala district in the Milne Bay province. Esa'Ala district in the Milne Bay province have launched a microcredit scheme which will allow people of the district to venture into small to medium enterprises. The launch this month on the island district saw Civil Aviation Minister and Esa'Ala Member of Parliament Davis Stephen presenting a cheque of $250,000, which will cover the groundwork of establishing the scheme through the partnership with the Small Business Development Corporation. The launch also saw 257 people in the district graduate with SBDC's Start and Improve Your Own Business program that will enable them to have the skills to venture into businesses when the credit scheme officially kicks off next year.
Esa'Ala district in the Milne Bay province have launched a microcredit scheme which will allow people of the district to venture into small-medium enterprise. The launch this month on the island district saw Civil Aviation Minister and Esa'Ala Member of Parliament Davis Stephen presenting a cheque of 250,000 kina that will cover the groundwork of establishing the scheme through partnership with Small Business Development Corporation. The scheme will pave the way in the near future of the people of Esa'Ala to have a bank that will enable them to save and have finance available for them to venture into businesses as considered by themselves. As part of the economic empowerment drive for the people of the district, that is in order for them to be fully informed and equipped in business skills, the MP decided to have 257 people in his district attend the SPDC Start and Improve Your Own Business program, of which they graduated after completion of the course in 2 weeks. The training will enable the people to be ready and equipped to venture into any small and medium enterprises, and this will happen accordingly when the district has its microcredit scheme established next year, which will allow them to borrow and start businesses.
In essence, or in short, what we are talking about is for the village people of Esa'Ala district in rural communities owning a bank. Our vision, as you can see, is to create millionaires. We want to create genuine, local-based and homegrown millionaires that have a testimony and have a legacy and a story to influence the next generation of budding and willing entrepreneurs. So for me, as a strategy, what we want to do is create as many businesses as we can. So we have a business base, and then we create the facility, meaning a small microfinance assistance scheme, and eventually build towards owning a bank, which people can basically find meaning in and express themselves in.
Minister Davis stated that the microfinance credit scheme for his people will officially kick off next year when the groundwork is done and the proper structures are in place to have the people start borrowing money to venture into businesses. Minister Davis stated that for the economic sector to gain momentum, a plan was needed, and they had taken such steps in recognizing all existing boat owners in the district and made a business association for them. They then had an agriculture summit to have all farmers come together and be informed and trained on business skills. And finally, the district called on all business people to come together and have them registered to be able to fully participate in the microcredit scheme when it kicks off next year. Minister Davis further stressed that for the last 2 years, the district has not been able to develop the plan, especially because of the capacity the district has. This meaning they had no business development officers in the district to draw proper business plans. Therefore, the need to have a business plan drove the local MP to plan and work closely with SPDC to have the business plans of his district in line and on track for the people to be able to have their economic sector boosted.
The economic sector to begin to move, we need a plan. We need a plan, and for the last 2 years we've not been able to develop that plan, especially because of the capacity issues that we face in the rural districts of the country. I say this especially with regards to the situation here in Esa'Ala district and in Milne Bay province, where we do not have readily available business development officers to support our district planning process. So in our search for a practical approach to building SMEs, which is basically the national government policy and the national government funded scheme to generate the economy in the rural areas and to build a rural base, more or less agro-based economy. We needed a plan. So for me, the process of creating a plan drove us to SPDC.
SPDC Acting Managing Director Henry Marasembi further stated that SPDC will go on the ground, working in partnership with the district to ensure that all groundwork is in place to roll out the microfinance credit scheme come next year.
We'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Honourable Minister and Member for Esa'Ala for the exchange of the dummy check. We also, in exchange, would like to give him a concert paper on the microcredit. So we will work on this together with the Minister as we progress on. Thank you.
Mr. Marasembi emphasized that the microfinance scheme will eventually lead to the people of Esa'Ala having their own bank in the near future. Mr. Marasembi said the graduates were from all the islands that make up the district, and they will be able to have access to funds from the MP, of which will come through the microcredit scheme that was launched alongside the graduation. Mr. Marasembi stated that while commending the partnership with the district, the graduation saw the largest number of people that SPDC has so far graduated. Mr. Marasembi said it was part of the national government's vision to create more businesses, and this will lead to having more jobs for local people in the country.
The O'Neill Dion government, you will find that the government is putting a very big challenge on all its agencies, all government departments to work with the government's vision. And the government's vision is to create more businesses and more jobs. And at the moment, we have 49,000 formally registered businesses. By 2030, we would like to increase that number to 500,000. And that is the biggest task and challenge the government is giving us. With this, the government is also working towards developing a new SME policy and a master plan. And in this SME policy and master plan that we are already working on, hopefully we should get it launched towards the end of this year.
One of the participants of the program, whom has since set a successful family trade store and food supply contract to a local nursing school, has praised SPDC's SIYB program that has helped him so far.
I arranged with my family to start up a trade store, and right now we are already operating the trade store for 2 years. On the side of the trade store, we started to engage the family in agriculture business. Why we engage a family in agriculture business? Because we have a surplus of vegetables. We have a surplus of vegetables right now with us. That is why we wanted to enter into agriculture business so that we can help our families out. And on the agriculture business, on the side of marketing, we have already signed a contract with CHW School of Nursing to supply them with fresh vegetables.
Mr. Sakiyusa said that his family business has brought in 36,000 kina to his village community, and this means that he is able to build the economy of his village community as well.
Recently, we have brought in 16,800 kina that we distributed in this community. That is one of the ways in which we help to grow the economy of this community. After growing the economy in this community, the people will then come back to us to buy goods in our trade store.
You're watching Business PNG. More when we come back. Stay with us. And now we bring you some business news before we wrap things up. Papua New Guinea will be the recipient of 601 million kina for aid and development purposes, trade and political relations over the next 6 years. The proposed allocation was disclosed during the PNG-EU Awareness Dialogue earlier this month. The EU has a long-standing partnership with Papua New Guinea since 1977, and the partnership covers the 3 areas of aid and development, trade, and has recently included political relations to the alliance. The main areas supported by the Union in Aid or Development Cooperation have been infrastructure, mining, and rural development, but also water and sanitation, education, good governance, human rights, and importantly, the fight against gender-based violence in favor of gender equity and participation. PNG and EU have intensified their cooperation in the area of trade recently, and the latest addition to this relationship is for a true political dimension between both parties. The government has been urged by the Pacific Institute of Public Policy to apply the brakes on spending to avoid building up a deficit of close to 400 million kina. The Vanuatu-based think tank sounded the warning recently in a commentary titled New Light on Papua New Guinea's Fiscal Frailty, which was written by the Institute's senior analyst Mark Evans in response to the release of the Treasury Department's 2014 Mid-Year Economic and Fiscal Outlook Report. The department report contained revised estimates from the government on the country's economic growth, which was changed to 5.4%, a revised projection from the 2014 budget estimate of 6.2%. The revised growth rate was attributed to lower production from major mines as well as lower commodity prices, such as for cocoa, coconut, oil, and coffee. At the end of 2013, the legal debt limit was 30% of GDP. By the end of this year, Parliament will be asked to revise the target up to 40%. The concerns by the Pacific Institute of Public Policy coincides with the government's announcement last week Wednesday of a 41 million kina district targeted program to build 40 houses per district over a 5-year period.
This is a milestone achievement of, again, one of the policy initiatives of the Onildian government in terms of addressing the acute shortage of housing for our citizens. So again, there was a ministerial NEC decision that endorsed the formation of a ministerial committee to address this acute shortage of housing for both urban and rural citizens of Papua New Guinea.
The new housing program will add to the government's expenditure for this financial year. And that's the end of our show. For more business news, or if you would simply like to view this episode again, visit MTV online. That's mtv.com.pg/business. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Milne Bay, and this is Business PNG. Business PNG is brought to you by the China Harbour Engineering Company.